Hey everyone, my name is Peter and I'm part of the AppSheet product team here at Google Cloud. Thanks for joining this session about how to build AI powered no code apps with AppSheet. I personally work on making AppSheet as accessible as possible for business users that don't have coding experience to build apps with AppSheet. And I'm joined by my teammate Tony, who's a senior engineer focused on building AI into the platform to make it easier to use, as well as into the end applications that people can create to make those apps themselves really powerful. Thanks for joining, Tony.
Hey, Peter, thanks. So today we're going to walk through the basics of how to build an application without writing code in order to digitize a common business process. After we do that, we're going to look at a few ways to make the app intelligent and even more efficient by adding machine learning to it.
Great. So, for a little background, a real serious challenge that many businesses face is this growing demand for improving their internal technology, but they frequently lack the skills and resources to update and build those solutions internally. Software that comes out of the box rarely meets all the unique requirements that a business has. And so developing custom solutions becomes necessary real quickly, but it's expensive, it's time consuming, and frequently just doesn't get done. There just aren't enough developers to help tackle all the opportunities for updating and modernizing process.
Yeah, and it's even harder to use AI and machine learning to make your business workflows smarter. The skill sets for these are rare. It involves unique infrastructure for building your applications, and configuring these things just takes tons of time. And so this is just overhead that most organizations don't have. So intelligent no-code platforms help solve this by enabling anyone to be that app developer, AI expert, no matter what their background is. So machine learning baked into the no-code platform helps in three ways. First, it makes app creation easier for the user by guiding them along the common pathways. Second, it makes the apps themselves more powerful and efficient by, say, automatically doing data entry for you. And third, it makes governance even easier and more reliable in the long term. So, no code apps can include all sorts of powerful functionality, including collecting or managing data more efficiently, automating business workflows, and sharing insights with teammates, taking advantage of things like business intelligence with dashboards, charts, and reports.
Yeah, there's opportunity for creating apps that use features like those really all throughout an organization. It could be out in the field with customers. It could be managing projects. It could be in like manufacturing or distribution facilities, or in the office in a more corporate setting. But some of the most valuable opportunities are with deskless workers. So these teammates don't necessarily sit behind a computer during the day, and they're more likely to experience friction trying to collaborate with other teammates, or access important information just in order to do their job effectively. So let's look at this example of how to get started building a no code application that helps a manufacturing team perform quality control inspections more efficiently from their mobile devices. Specifically, let's digitize their inspections, taking it from a pen and paper process to a mobile app. And then Tony can help take that app and make it even more efficient by building a machine learning model into it with just a few steps. So, how do you get started? To start the process, you're connecting a data source to AppSheet to serve as the back end of that application. Then we'll define an interface and behavior of that app in AppSheet before we share it with the team. Once it's in the hands of end users, those updates that they're making in the application get synced right back to that original data source. So let's open up AppSheet and get started building this particular app. In order to get this app started, we want to make sure that we have the data source ready to go. In this case, we're going to use a Google Sheet here. And this Google Sheet has three tables. We have some recent inspection data, we have the parts that are being inspected, and then we also have the employees that are performing the inspections. So let's connect this to AppSheet to get this app started. We're going to connect to Google, and we're going to find this particular Google Sheet. And AppSheet's going to connect to that initial inspections table. Then we'll want to connect to the other two as well. while it's connecting to those tables, what's happening behind the scenes is that it's looking at the content of that data and then building a relevant prototype automatically based on what it can find. And so you can see we already have an application here that allows for creating new inspections, for viewing those existing ones, and then also viewing the inspections on a calendar based on the dates in that data. Let's connect the other two tables, and then let's customize this interface. With these three tables connected now, one thing that AppSheet was doing also behind the scenes was intelligently building relationships between the tables based on what it could find, based on the fields that it's looking at in these tables. And so, right, because we have a relationship, there are employees performing the inspections, and the inspections are being performed on different parts. There's going to be relationships between this data. And that's already represented in this prototype of the application. If we look at one of these inspections, you can see that the part itself has been connected and I can navigate to the part details. When I'm looking at this part, it has related inspections that have been performed on it. I can also see the employee who performed this particular inspection. I can go to that employee's details. So with these relationships established, that just gives me a huge head start on what type of functionality I can expose in the application, and it makes it a lot easier then to now customize the app to be exactly what I want for my end app users. If I move into the UX section, you can see that there were a few different views created, but I want this application to be fairly straightforward and simple. So I'm going to go ahead and remove a couple of these views, and then I'm going to customize the inspections view and make sure that there is a dedicated form view to create new inspection entries. You can see throughout the editor, there are going to be suggestions for what features and what elements might be helpful in your application. In this case, when I'm looking at the view types, I have an automatic view type that has been selected. I'd like to take advantage of these images that are being collected from these inspection cards. So I'm going to use the card view actually to better highlight those images. What's advantageous about this card view is that it provides a really easy way of defining which fields get exposed in the app interface. And so here, I'm just going to go through some of these different fields. Maybe I want to show the employee and the date of their inspection up top. And then the main image is already selected. And then I really want to highlight whether or not this inspection was accepted or rejected. And so I'll make that the primary header. And then I want to make sure that if it is rejected, that the description of that inspection gets highlighted. Now I can include actions in this view to help navigate or initiate workflows. I'm going to remove those so it's nice and clean. And so now I have a view here on the right showing those existing inspections that have been performed that I'm starting this application with. Last step here is, because these are inspection cards, I'll put a relevant view icon of a card. And I'd like alongside this a quick way for my application users to perform new inspections. And when creating this view, I'm going to make sure that it is adding new inspections to the inspections table. I'm going to make this a form. And then I'll make this form icon something relevant, like a magnifying glass and a plus sign. Great. So now this application consists of two primary views, a way of adding new inspections and a way of viewing existing inspections. I'm going to go ahead and save this app. I want to make sure the app logo is very relevant so my app users recognize the application. And then, because an important part of this application is really quickly identifying inspections that have been rejected, I'm going to add a format rule that just calls attention to rejected inspections. And so in this case, I'm going to say for every inspection where the condition equals rejected, I'm going to apply a format to that particular condition field. And in this case, I want a, let's see, a little alert, and I want the text to be red. And you can already see here on the right that we're previewing that effect. So I'll go ahead and save this. Great. So now I'll open this application up and preview it in tablet form, and you can get a better sense for how those inspections that have been logged by my employees are visible and readily accessible. And I can also very quickly get to the details of the different employees and see inspections that they have performed. Or, for example, look at different parts that are being manufactured and see related inspections. So one reason why this is valuable to employees is that it's digitizing the process and it's making this information more reliably accessible long term. Another really important part of this application is getting the information into the hands of the right people more quickly than it previously did. So one way that we can support that is by building a workflow in order to notify the right person or the right team as soon as an inspection has been logged as rejected. So in this case, let's build a workflow that sends a notification email to the right contact whenever a new inspection has been logged that meets this condition. In this case, we're going to continue looking at that inspections table, and we're going to say that every time a new row has been added and the condition equals rejected, then we're going to send an email. We'll send this email to the operations team. And we'll want a relevant email subject. And then we can actually use a Google Doc as the template for this email. So on the side here, I've created a Google Doc that is just a simple layout that includes some of the fields from my app data. And I can use this as a template for this particular email. And so if I include a link to that template, every time this workflow will run, it will draw from that template and send an email formatted based on that Google Doc layout. Great, now let's test what happens when we add a new inspection to this application. We can use a photo of a recently inspected tag that's come off one of the parts. This part has been marked as rejected, and I'll fill in some of the details here. Submitting a form in an AppSheet app passes that data right through to the connected data source. So in this case, it's going to add a row to the Google Sheet. And that added row triggers the workflow that will send the email notification to the team. So at this point, the app is ready to start being used, and I can get it to the team by sending individual email invites. I can invite just a group from my organization, or I can make it accessible to the entire domain. And then I can share a link that is accessible by any user on their mobile device or on their desktop. Okay, so we've got the foundation of this app created, and it's already ready for the team to be using so they can capture their inspections digitally instead of just with pen and paper. So they're already using the app, they're already collecting these tickets in the application. The real gains from this particular app are going to come by incorporating this AI model specifically using some of that existing data to build an OCR model. So, Tony, can you walk us through that stage right now?
So Peter just talked about how to build this cool quality control app that allows you to move from a paper-based process to a digital process where instead of employees filling out paper forms, they're using this mobile app to take pictures of these tickets and transcribe the information in them. So what I'm going to talk about next is how to take advantage of the data that is now being collected via this mobile app. So you can think of every time an employee uses this app, they take a photo of one of these quality control tickets and then enters in information. So we're building up a data set. Now we can use AI and machine learning to take advantage of the data that we've collected and further enrich the app by making it more efficient and easier to use. So let me give you a quick tour of some of the AI features that are available in AppSheet. So I'm going to navigate to the Intelligence tab in the AppSheet editor. And the first feature I want to show you is the Smart Assistant feature. So the Smart Assistant feature enables a Google Assistant-like experience inside of your mobile app, but customized to your business domain. So once you flip this switch in the editor, you get your own custom assistant that understands natural language. Let me give you a couple examples. So to access the assistant, I go to this view that's available in the side menu of my app called Assistant. And here I can do things like this. Can you show me the inspections from last month? So the assistant takes my question like this and understands it in terms of the data and concepts that are in my app. Can you show me just the rejected ones? So you can see that it understood what I said and further filtered the data down to just the rejected inspections. Can you show me more information about the rotary piston? So this is just a couple examples of the types of interactions you can have with the Smart Assistant feature in AppSheet. Now I'd like to show you AppSheet's OCR, or optical character recognition features. So let's go back to the inspection data that we've been collecting. So you can see I've got a quality control ticket image taken with a mobile device, and then I've got the information that we've transcribed down below. So in our current process, the employee needs to both take a photo and then manually transcribe the information from the ticket. I'm going to show you how you can use OCR to automate this process and go directly from a picture of one of these tickets and have a filled out form based on the content from the image itself. So this OCR feature leverages Google Cloud Vision API. This means that business users have access to the same powerful machine learning algorithms that were traditionally limited to software engineers before. So let me walk you through the steps that you need to take in order to add this type of OCR capability to the AppSheet app. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a new OCR model. So what an OCR model is it's a way of looking at the examples of the data that we've already collected and coming up with a machine learning model that can then extract from new images that haven't been seen in the data set before. So the first thing I need to do is choose my table. In this case, I'm going to choose the inspections table because that's the data that I want to use this on to go from the picture of an inspection ticket to these extracted fields. Next, I need to specify the image column. In this case, there's just a single column in my data set called image. This is going to be the input to the model. Then I choose the output. These are the columns in the data set that I want to predict. In this case, it's automatically selected the other columns in the table, like condition, part number, quantity, and so on. So this is how I specify the model. And when I press save, what's going to happen is AppSheet's going to look at the data that's already in my table, these examples you see over here on the right, and it's going to use a machine learning model to figure out common patterns of where these values appear in the images. So I'm going to press save. Cool, now that the page is reloaded, the OCR model has been trained, and we can actually inspect it to see what it learned from the data set. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit. And you can see here below my model, I have the examples from my training set. And if I click on them, you can see that it's found out where in the image the columns in my table are found. So for example, this yellow piece right here at the bottom is identified as where the description is located in the image. And it identified that the word rejected up here corresponds to the condition field in the same table. So it's gone through these 10 or so examples that we've already collected via regular use of the app and figured out how to generalize from it. And now we can use it to identify where these fields are automatically in new images. So let me give you an example of that. So I'm going to go back to the app here, and I'm going to click on the new inspection button at the bottom. So you can see this is the form that the app creators have been using to fill out the app so far. So now I'm going to upload a new image to the form. This is an image that wasn't already in the table, so the app hasn't seen this before. So I've selected the image. And now you can see that it's automatically filled out the rest of the form with values from the image. So for example, it got the date as July 26, 2020 from the upper right-hand corner of the image. So you can see once you start using AppSheet to digitize your paper-based processes, you start getting compounding returns. Once you collect the data set, it becomes more valuable because you can use AI and machine learning algorithms on it. However, you don't have to be an expert to use them anymore. We provide no-code interfaces to it that allow business users to create their custom machine learning models for their particular business domain. These algorithms are built on top of Google Cloud AI features, so you get the same powerful machine learning capabilities that were traditionally only available to trained software engineers. But now you can access them without writing any code at all.
Great. Thanks, Tony. So in 15 minutes, we've digitized this inspection process with a custom app that uses ML models built in, and it's built from existing business data. And what we've shown can really be built by anyone on the team who sees an opportunity to innovate and who understands, how to improve this particular process. So, Tony, I'd like to just expand on a few topics that are related to what we just showed. And the first is, I'm curious, based on this application and where it is right now, where do you think would be some natural next steps to take it to extend the functionality for this particular scenario?
Yeah, so one thing I didn't talk about in my demo was AppSheet's predictive models. So predictive models allow you to automatically categorize records based on the data that you've collected so far. So for example, in this inspection ticketing scenario, what you could do is have the platform automatically categorize these tickets based on the words that appear in the description. You could then use that categorization to route failures or rejections to the right team. So this is another way that you can use cloud AI powered machine learning without having to be a programmer.
Great. Yeah. So in the example that we just showed, and then also the extension that you just described, is there a particular example of a customer that has built a similar solution and is using it with their team that you can describe a little bit?
Yeah, so as an example, we've got a customer from the construction industry who's starting to roll out an OCR powered app. And so what they have is an AppSheet powered workflow already where they have truck drivers driving, picking up goods and delivering them to work sites. And every time they do this, they have to use their mobile phone to take a picture of like a trucking ticket or a receipt. They're already using an AppSheet app to do this. And then a QA person downstream uh, goes through those images that the truck drivers captured and manually transcribes all the information from them, like the shipment weight and the date and the time. But because they already have this workflow built on an AppSheet app, they're able to just extend it further using the platform's OCR capabilities. So now the QA person doesn't have to go through and transcribe every ticket, which would take minutes for every ticket, and they have hundreds of these tickets. Now they can just actually have the OCR system automatically fill out the forms, and then they can just verify to make sure it's correct. So this just saves tons of time for these QA people.
Yeah, very cool. Thanks, Tony. So Finally, can you just give us a quick synopsis or description of what is around the corner for AI in the AppSheet platform?
Yeah, so there's a couple things I can highlight. So one is the platform itself is becoming more and more intelligent, giving app creators suggestions as they build their app, making it easier to go from an idea to a fully functioning app. A second way that we're improving things is allowing you to build workflows based on cloud AI technology. So, for example, having a workflow where you upload a document, it's automatically categorized, routed to the right person, and classified further. And a third direction is deeper integrations with Google Cloud's machine learning offerings to make it even easier for apps to understand your unstructured data.
That's great. Thanks for sharing, Tony. It's real exciting to see sort of how the platform and the apps themselves are continuing to get new AI features. So, just to recap what Tony's described and what we've shown here in these couple demos is having AI built into the no code apps as well as into the authoring environment. It really just boils down to apps being easier to make and being capable of really powerful functionality. And really importantly, all along the way, because this is entirely in a no code environment, it's really easy to control with organizational level policies that are real simple to set up and they're easy to maintain long term. So, with that, thank you, Tony, for your work making this functionality available and for helping demonstrate it today. And thank you, everyone who has joined the session and are watching this video. I know I speak for the team when I say that we're excited to have new users joining and creating real interesting and powerful solutions for their own teams. There's a real strong community of app creators here at AppSheet and throughout Google and honestly all over the world that are ready to help share ideas and help you get started in the platform. So if you'd like to learn more and try it out, you can find AppSheet in Google Cloud or directly at appsheet.com. Thanks.